Welcome to Energy Matters to You, January 24th, 2020 edition. The Energy Matters to You podcast is a communication platform that features technologies and thought leaders working to advance energy efficiency. The Energy Matters to You podcasts seek to connect buyers with sellers so that practical, cost-effective energy efficiency and sustainable energy solutions continue to gain market traction. We're your hosts. My name is Leo Ryan, and I'm here with my co-host, Ron Galuli. Well, we've taken a couple of months off, Ron, but I wanted to start by just talking about the state energy efficiency scorecard. Once again, Massachusetts finds itself at the top of the list. Did you have a chance to look at that?
I did, yeah. So Mass is number one again, but we also have some other Northeast states right up there. Vermont is number 3. I think Connecticut was number 6. And let me check where New York was. Actually, New York was number 5. So quite a few right in the top 10 there. So that spells good news for the region. Yeah,
there's pressure by competing with your neighbors. I know I saw the governor of Rhode Island speak recently at a National Grid event down at Gillette. You were there. And when she was kind of joking about the fact that she has Massachusetts in her sights and looking to knock them off from the number 1 spot.
I hope she does.
Yeah, you of Rhode Island.
That's right. From Rhode Island background. That's right.
Prism Energy is one of the contributors to the success of the New England and Massachusetts, in particular, energy efficiency performance. So Wendy Simmons, welcome to Energy Matters to You.
Well, thank you, Leo. Appreciate it.
And you've been in the energy efficiency world for a while. Is that not true?
Only since 1984.
So you've seen some things.
Yes, I have.
So why don't you tell us a little bit? But we're going to talk a lot about Prism, but I'm curious about you. About what was the spark that drew you into this marketplace, and what sustained you all this time?
Well, it was quite by accident, actually. I was a teacher, and I didn't like teaching. And it wasn't sort of intellectually stimulating enough, interesting enough. I liked kids, it was fun, but, sort of a little lacking. So my father, who was an industrial engineer and ran a big textile mill, we talked and I said, I want to get a job in business, undefined business. So interestingly, he signed up for a then state program, the precursor to DOER, for an energy audit. And this engineer showed up and did an audit of his mill, which was 1 million square feet. And they got to chit-chatting, and this guy needed actually an office manager.
Okay.
And my dad said, well, that's funny because my daughter's looking for a job in business. And so I interviewed for this guy in 1984, and I got the job. I went from being the office manager, it was a small company, so I would edit this guy's reports. I would help put them together. I started kind of ghostwriting them for him. They started using me in project management. They started kind of teaching me some engineering. It was more on the construction side of things. And I found that very interesting. And apparently I had a little bit of aptitude for it. So my role there expanded. I actually left for 3 years and was a project manager in real estate development. And then the real estate market crashed, if you recall, in the late 80s. And then there were no more real estate jobs. And I actually went back to my old company and I, worked for them again. And they won the first small C&I lighting program from what was then Mass Electric, now National Grid. So then I was kind of in it full tilt. And I worked there for a total of 15 years. And then they moved. And I took that opportunity to go out on my own as opposed to undergo the long commute.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. All right. Good. So, so that was the foundation of Prism. Your old employer moves and you wanted to stay where you were, and that sparks your desire to start your own company.
Right.
Good. Okay. And then when Prism started, did it have a particular focus either in efficiency or a part of the marketplace that it was interested in serving?
Yes, it was funny because I ended up bidding on and winning the same program I had been running at my former employer. And I told them, I gave them 4 months notice. I told them I was going to do that. And I said, but I will hire and train my replacement and may the best company win. And they had no idea what I did because I kind of did it somewhat independently within their company. And so I ended up winning it. And so started the company based on small C&I lighting program, which we grew, progressively over the years, and then, expanded that into large commercial, and then expanded the large commercial into things other than lighting. So now we have a full engineering department, and we do sort of middle and large size projects, typically comprehensive projects of multiple measures, not led by lighting. Lighting may be a piece, but, we kind of lead more with the mechanical and control stuff. So that's much more a focus and a bigger piece of our business, and that's a piece of our business we continue to grow.
Wendy, what year was it that you started Prism?
I founded it in late 1998, but really kind of opened doors officially, and that contract became live, January of 99.
99. And Ron, where were you in 1999? Were you with National Grid?
I was with National Grid. Yeah, actually worked in their Marlboro office. So at that time, I was delivering energy efficiency and also doing new services, upgraded services for large commercial industrial customers. Yeah, I was aware that, Wendy had started a business, but I think, Wendy, you were mostly in the small business space.
Right.
And then you migrated to what you mentioned in the medium to large business.
Well, Ron, let's talk from the utility side of things. The way the utility was structuring incentives for small C&I and larger larger companies. Can you give us kind of a flavor for what the utility was going after then and how they might have evolved their approach to serving the marketplace?
Yeah, sure. I mean, back in, I'd say 1999, and Wendy, you know this better than anybody, the budgets that the utility had were nowhere near the size that we have now. And a lot of the measures were lighting focused. We were still doing T8, fluorescent lamps and ballasts. Obviously, things have changed. And I know, Wendy, it sounds like you're gravitating away from lighting. What have you seen in the last 5 years? And I think you mentioned in one of our discussions last December, I think you moved away somewhat from the small business market where you originally started.
That's correct. So the small C&I market is very simple lighting. And, though we do a little bit of that, we're mainly focusing on larger customers, larger projects, and more sophisticated solutions, even on the lighting side. So more of what we're doing is LED lighting with advanced controls. Sometimes those controls integrate with building controls, and we can use, relays to, kind of utilize the lighting controls also for the HVAC, for VAV boxes and, opening and closing dampers based on occupancy and other variables. So, those are sort of more sophisticated lighting solutions. And also, larger and more sophisticated mechanical and building controls, and even industrial controls, some combined heat and power, heat recovery, things like that.
So Wendy, if you go back, it's 20 plus years since you started the company, and you just listed off a bunch of different technologies. I'm curious to know what your sense is in talking to the customers you're serving about like their level of sophistication, their interest in new technologies or different technologies. Have you seen a shift in the way your buying group is evaluating technologies and making decisions about them?
Absolutely. And, that's driven by what customers want, what they ask for, what they know. That drives the initial sales conversation and right into the design and implementation. The analogy I love to use that people seem to understand is the smartphone or phones in general. So the beginning of energy efficiency programs were like your grandmother's rotary dial phone. A phone with a wire that had this round thing that had holes in it with numbers, and you dialed a number, right? And all the way to The first cell phones were the car phone was a bag phone that you plugged into your lighter, and it was big and clunky. And now we have these cool, iPhone 11 with 3 cameras, very light, and it's a computer. It's a smartphone. The technology that we're using, the initial lighting, those were dumb products. Those were your grandmother's rotary dial phone. And over the years, we got into T8s, which was the flip phone, and now we're into advanced lighting technologies, LED, with so many options that has a computer chip in it that you can tell it what to do just based on command or based on environmental cues. That's your iPhone 11, with the 3 cameras. There are lighting controls that can analyze data about occupancy, patterns in a warehouse that informs the warehouse manager. Well, you go into the back corner, which is this set of products, more often than you are things in the front. Well, let's put that stuff in the front because you're going to create efficiencies in your business by doing that. So
right.
It's very exciting and very fun. Technology didn't change much in the first decade of my business. And, it's changed exponentially in the second 10. And frankly, the last 5 it's almost hard to keep up, but it's exciting to try.
Yeah.
It's a good challenge to have.
Right. Well, one of the things that Ron had pointed out to me earlier, that the utilities have begun really advocating for these fully networked controls for lighting systems. And, with a partner like the utilities standing behind the incentives and serving now as an advocate for these, it makes it more attractive financially to these customers. And oftentimes the customers, they're busy running their facilities and don't spend a lot of time and energy investigating a new round or a new development in technology. So I'm curious, Wendy, with your knowledge and your background in this and having seen lighting systems evolve, are you sensing that these customers are receptive to implementing these kind of more complex systems over the simpler ones that they know?
I think they're very interested. I think on the lighting side, they get a little sticker shock at the cost, even with incentives. And here's the challenge. Good, smart customers have upgraded their lighting multiple times in the last 20 years with increasing technology and performance. So each iteration, you're gleaning less savings for your investment because you've done what you're supposed to do. So, the advanced lighting solutions are, quite expensive. They are underwritten, to a degree by the utility companies, but it is a little bit of a law of diminishing return on the savings based on the technology they're coming from. So the economics, remain a challenge. I think forward-thinking customers look at it, less transactionally. We have a couple of those types of customers where they're looking at it and saying, well, we're going to own this building for the long term. We're going to own this building for 20 years. So I'm okay with, the payback being longer because I'm going to own the building for 20 years. So I will reap the benefits over time. It's a little bit like putting your money in a low risk investment just letting it play out over time, as opposed to putting it in a risky stock that's you hope's going to give you payback in 3 years, that sort of thing, or double your money in 3 years, in the case of the investment. Although some people still look at it transactionally. I want a 3-year payback. I'm not going to do it if I don't get a 3-year payback. But, LED lighting in a facility that doesn't run 3 shifts, even with controls, because the controls are also expensive, may have a 5 to 7 to 8 year payback. So you've got to have an appetite for that, or you get financing and try to finance for the term of the payback, or maybe a little bit longer than the term of the payback, so that you can create a cash flow neutral or a slightly cash flow positive scenario for them.
So Wendy, you've talked about the advancements in lighting and the available data that can help improve operations. We've seen, I guess, the same progressions on the mechanical side. And
Right.
the utilities have recently, I'll call it, retooled their retro commissioning programs, and they call it ESPO. Have you been participating in that program track? I know that's a special area of interest in them to see that grow.
Right. I will tell you, we are talking to several customers about it, and it's a newer program. So I think even the folks we're working with at the utilities are in a little bit of a learning curve on that, and so we haven't done a project. We have a number of customers that are interested. We have a few that are proposed, and I think kind of participating sometimes in a startup program, it can be a little bit fits and starts in terms of timing, and that's what we're finding.
Yeah, we understand because in our business as a consultant, we see the same thing where there's a lot of buzz and talk about it, but
Yep.
I think to your point, the utility personnel is still trying to figure out, okay, how do we handle these different nuances with the program?
Right.
So, Wendy, let's just talk about Prism and its go-to-market strategy. Tell us, who's a good fit for Prism services, geographically, industry-wise, size? What are the kind of people that you want to, and businesses that you want to serve?
I would say, minimum 50,000 square foot building to 100,000 square foot building, ideally larger. But we do work in, some munis with, schools and larger regional high schools and things like that. We do a lot of property management, larger building property management, larger campus types of facilities, colleges and universities. We have a large hospital that's a campus, old-fashioned kind of campus-style hospital down in Connecticut. One owner, multiple buildings or campus-style, facility layouts. Folks who want to do multiple measures. We like to do comprehensive projects and have multiple measures and measures certainly beyond lighting. We love unique projects that kind of can be complex or that you need to innovate on. And we like working with sort of innovative and kind of blue chip kind of customers who, have some sophistication on the economics and the financial piece of the project so that we can get it done. We're doing a multi-phase project at a fish farm, which has been kind of an interesting one. It's a facility that raises branzino, and their challenge was with their existing system, they weren't getting the tanks warm enough to be optimal for the cultivation of the branzino, which is basically sea bass. And so they supply restaurants and things like that. And so what happens is when the fish are not warm enough, they don't grow as large. So, they have fewer pounds of fish to sell. And also they don't grow as quickly. So you want them to grow quickly and you want them to grow to a big size because it's all about volume and pounds, right? So this was somewhat of a startup and so had, sort of limited capital. And so we were able to kind of innovatively use their existing heating system to get the tanks up to pretty much the optimal temperature year round. And phase 2 is probably going to be using CHP and, cut down on obviously there's a lot of pumping and things going on. So they're using a lot of electricity as well as the heat, for heating the space and heating. These are very large tanks. So that one's going to be neat because phase 2 is CHP. And there's discussion in the sizing of the CHP that they may add a greenhouse by which they use the organic fertilizer created by the fish to fertilize the greenhouse, like lettuces and things like that. And the greenhouse also, we can use the heat from the CHP and, use all the electricity. So heat recovery is very interesting. And the use of combined heat and power and even fuel cell, optimizing the thermal end of CHP and fuel cell installations.
That's a great story. And that's kind of brings the conversation back to where we started about your own curiosity. So it's not just about energy efficiency, but serving a unique need. In this case, the growth of indoor fish farming. So thanks for sharing that with us.
No problem.
Wendy, anything else that that the listeners should know about Prism, like how to contact you or things that you're working on?
Sure. You can find us at our website, www.prismenergyservices.com, contact@prismenergyservices.com. Again, if you want to use old technology, 617-328-9896. We are on all social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
So someone could even use a rotary dial phone to reach you if they wanted to.
They could.
Good stuff. All right. Wendy Simmons from Prism Energy Services. Thanks so much for being part of Energy Matters to You.
Well, thanks for the invitation.
Good. Ron,
Thank you, Wendy.
What do we got going on the calendar? What's on the energy calendar that folks should know about?
Ooh, well, the next event that should be on everybody's radar locally here in the region is the Association of Energy Engineers Utility Night, which is February 5th in Waltham at the Embassy Suites. So I believe there are two speakers from Eversource going to talk about their strategic vision for energy efficiency and distributed energy resources. So that'll be a popular night on the 5th.
You're a good man, Ron. You've been serving that organization for a long time, haven't you?
Yeah. I do the newsletter, so right. I'm the guy that bugs people to send their stuff in. So yeah. I think I have a permanent job there.
Well, you served the president's role, so they had to move you out of that at some point.
Right.
Good stuff. Well, Wendy Simmons again from Prism. Thanks so much for being part of EM2U. As always, we're looking for ideas and guests. So if you do have them, please feel free to reach out to Ron and I. And congratulations to all of those associated with the energy efficiency in Massachusetts and retaining that #1 spot nationally. So obviously there's still work to be done, and you're all doing it. Thanks for the difference that you do make. So signing off, Ron Galuli and Leo Ryan for Energy Matters 2U. Thank you.